etc., etc. But if you look at, I'll be sending the latest version to whoever wants a PDF. Everything has to comply with what it says in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Jubilees, Enoch, Scripture. If it doesn't, you're out.
Absolutely. It's got to be literally calculated. But the thing about it is, it's so easy and it's so perfect because the feast days never fall on Shabbat, and the feasts are on the same day every year. All right, so I'm recording. I don't see Rich here. But what we're doing today is a little calendar forum. It's a given that the Zadokite calendar would be the one that Yahshua kept in his day. And we know that because of a couple reasons. First off, any Jewish dictionary will tell you that there are multiple calendars going in the first century. That the Sadducees had compromised with the Greeks. Remember, the Sadducees came into power in 175 or so BC after the after getting rid of the Zadokite priesthood and finally killing the last priest in, I think, 171 BC. So these non-Zadokite priestly types came in, remembering that in Ezekiel 44, that Yahweh had required the family of Zadok to be priests forever. And in the time of Yahshua, of course, there were Zadokite priests. They did not take part in the temple service. They had their own because they were not in agreement with either the priesthood or what they were doing there, and especially not the calendar. The calendar of the Zadokites, we understand, goes back to at least 1000 BC, and the reign of David and Zadok the high priest. And as for me, I traced it on back to about 1800 BC. That's as far back as I could go. This was the calendar that we assume Yahweh gave to the Zadokite family clear back in the time of Avraham. And there are a number of dots that we could connect to bring the time of Abraham up to the time of the actual Zadok the priest, which I'm not going to go into. I've done a number of podcasts on that. But ostensibly, we can see this calendar going now almost 4,000 years before we lose it in the end. And the second thing to mention is that this is a festival calendar. This is not a secular calendar. I mentioned that the Sadducees went over to the Greek calendar, that is the lunisolar calendar, for the purpose of amplifying their ability to make money, because the Greek calendar was a secular calendar, and they imposed the feasts on that through the lunisolar system, which of course you're going to be losing 10 days or more a year. And you're also quite possibly, although we don't know for sure at that time, going to have Shabbats at various different times depending on whether they used a monthly or quarterly system. They're going to change the Shabbat. The Pharisees were on their own calendar too. It was the Persian or Parthian calendar, not unlike the observance calendar of today with the barley ears, the green barley ears, and observing what phase the moon was in. That also a lunar calendar that requires a significant intercalation every once in a while to bring it into coordination with the actual solar time. So we have those two calendars going at that time, both lunar. Then we have those dissidents using the solar calendar that the observations are found in Enoch. The actual calendar is found in Jubilees and some of the other apocalyptic books of the intertestamental period or before, and specifically arranged in the first MMT letter, Miksat Mahasa HaTorah, that is, some of the works of the Torah. This is a letter that goes from one sect to another. We suppose of Zadokites, but nobody knows for sure. I believe that the MMT was not sent out by Qumran. I think it was received by Qumran. And in the first section, it tells us specifically how to gauge the calendar each year. But I think that that part in your modern Dead Sea Scrolls has been cut out and put in another section with calendrical texts. But what I've sent you on this link is the translation of Eisenman and Wise from 1990, before it was all split out and all the books and the scrolls were name changed. And this retains at the beginning of the first MMT letter how to run the calendar. So it was a competing calendar in that day. And my thought was, the way I came upon this was I was working with Moshe Konachowski on trying to find the right calendar or the genuine calendar. And he took a viewpoint that he needed to start with ancient documents, go through as many as he can and try to coordinate those documents together in order to get a calendar. And as you probably know, if you've had any truck with that ministry, there have been calendar after calendar after calendar. But but my tack in doing this was different. It wasn't an academic way. It was more like, in the first century, what would Yeshua do? What would he be doing? Look, he was a Davidid, first of all. That is, he was the progeny of David. And we hail him as the new David, the king of the redeemed world. Would he be using the Greek or Persian calendars? No. Okay, Hunter. No, he wouldn't. He would be using the Davidic Zadokite calendar because he knew the prophecies and he knew Ezekiel 40 through 44. If you haven't looked into that, that's worth reading because it talks, Yahweh speaks to the prophet concerning what is to happen in the future. And therein, the family of Zadok, as I mentioned, is given whole reign over the liturgy, calendar, and all efforts to do true worship to Yahweh. And again, this was usurped by these other families, and ever since then, it's been a mess right on up to the Hillel 2 calendar that's used today quite often in Judaism. But what's happening here is even many Jews are starting to see the light here, so to speak, see the sun here. And I'm looking at more and more calendar sites. I see that they're coming over. I can't say in droves, but this one link I gave you that goes to, let me look, TorahIsLight.org. This is one Jewish group that's just gone over after a lot of study. And that's why, you know, they're still struggling with some of the concepts in there that we have pretty much mastered here. So let's go to the MMT. And I'll share my screen with you. I have noticed that so many people that have been following the Zadok calendar have got it wrong this year. They just have not followed it literally, recognizing that haven't recognized that the new year cannot fall on the equinox. The new year has to fall after the equinox, and really we can't even call it the new year. We have to call it the first day of the first month. The way this works is after the equinox, you wait to the first day. This year it's very important that you start your count from a Sunday. And then you go from the Sunday, your first day of the first month becomes the fourth day after Sunday. Because this was the day that the sun was created, on the fourth day. The Zadokites understood that the first day of the week is the day that we call Sunday, and it's still the first day of the week. But this has not changed over the centuries, and if it has, you'll have to prove it, because so many people have tried to show that the days of the week have been messed up in one way or the other, and that some cultures have gone to 10 days and some other numbers of days, but the Jews never have done that. Another thing we can look at that's very important is the literary Sabbath, and that is if we look at languages and follow them back as far as we can, we still see in a majority of languages that have been affected by the Jewish faith that we find the seventh day is designated Shabbat. Look at Greek, for instance. You know, the word for the seventh day is Shabbat, and plural Shabbaton. And that carries over into so many other languages, and not just Romance languages either. I did a reconstruction of this a few years ago, and I was just amazed, going clear back as far as I could go, that this day had not changed. The first day of the week is always going to be on Shabbat, or on Sunday, and the seventh day is always going to be on Roman Saturday. It's always going to be that way. It always has been that way. You can do the study yourself, but it's been proved over and over and over again. Now, part one here of the translation, what you get here, you also get the Hebrew if you want to try that. In the first month, on the fourth of it, is a Shabbat. Now, the equinox this year was on the 20th of the month, which is a Wednesday. This is where groups have made a mistake, calling the 20th the first day of the first month, or the new year. Because the mistake is because you can't have a year start on the equinox day. Whatever day it starts, you go to the first day of the week next. That would be to the Sunday. It's critical this time for the very fact that the equinox is on a Wednesday, because, you know, your major feasts are going to be on Wednesday all the time. And what's critical about this calendar is not when it ends, only when it starts. As I mentioned, it's a festival calendar. It's not a secular calendar. It makes no difference when it ends, because after the seventh month, the feasts are done. You got 5 more months there. They're non sequitur. They don't have anything to do with the feast. But you've got to get the first day right. So this year, we go to the first day after the solstice, which is going to be Sunday. What would be the date then? 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, the 25th. Is that right? No, wait. 20, 21, 22, 23. Yeah, 24th, right?
24, correct.
Okay. And that gives us the first day of the week, but not the first day of the year. We have to go in 4 more days. It brings us to a Wednesday again. So in the particular case of this year, your first day of the new year was going to be on Wednesday the 27th. It's yet to come. It's next Wednesday. Now, why other people using the Enoch calendar is not understanding this, I don't know. It makes every bit of sense, and as Norman said, he has surveyed all the scriptures on this. I'm going to let him talk in a minute. So from there, once we determine that, we're fine. We don't have to worry about the end of the year or intercalation or anything like that. Your months go 30 days, 30 days, 31 days. There you have a season or a quarter, 91 days. Second quarter, same. Third quarter, same. Fourth quarter, same. Even though the fourth quarter doesn't really count for anything because there's no feast that month, that quarter. Then you just calculate the next New Year day. No matter where you're at, doesn't make any difference. There is no intercalation because you're starting again with the equinox. So whatever the day the equinox is going to be on in 2020, you go to the first day after that, that's a Sunday, and then 4 days in is always going to be a Wednesday. You think, well, how is that going to keep up with the solar circle? This is hard for me to get. But finally I realized that using the equinox is always going to keep you on track with the solar circle. It's 365 days and a quarter. That has to sink in a little bit because we're so used to using leap year, an extra day, or in the case of Jewish calendars, an extra month, that there's no need to intercalate because there's no need to figure out when the end of the year is. Only the first day. And then even at that, the feasts are going to be the same days next year as they were this year, and the year before, and the year before that. We're not going to be falling back. We're not going to be getting ahead. So then, if we determine the 27th as being the first day, it's just a matter of the Leviticus 23 counting. The 14th day is Passover. That's going to be a Tuesday because that's a preparation day. Preparation day for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is always going to be on Wednesday. So the 14th day is the Passover, 15th day is a Wednesday, and that is a high day. So this also includes the waving of the Omar, if you do that. And one of the things I like about this particular translation that you might not like is that it uses, wait a minute, get this out of the way. It uses our common day names in it, so we don't get mixed up. For instance, Sunday and Monday, of course, that's not in there. What it's going to say is first day and second day in the Hebrew. But Eisenman and Wise decided to translate this such a way that it's accurate and easier to understand for us. Then again, you got the Hebrew here if you want to try to conquer that. It doesn't have vowel points or anything like that. It's from the Dead Sea Scrolls, of course. You're not going to have that. Might also note that there are some other feasts in here. New wine, new oil, the wood offering. Those three, I think that's all. We're in the process of trying to discover the liturgy of these things, these days. Though it's pretty obvious what the day is for, we see these types of staple blessings in the Psalm 104, 104, yes, that goes clear back to at least 1350 BC. Psalm 104, as you might know, was originally written by the Pharaoh Akhenaten and was found there among the ruins of Amarna. And what David did, or whoever redacted it later, added to it, but didn't take much from it. And we find these same elements, new wine, oil, even bread. Wood can be equated with bread as well in Psalm 104 as being the staple blessings of Yahweh to humankind. So it's another clue that this calendar goes back at least to 1350 BC. And if it goes back that far, there are numerous links to Melchizedek. I mean, numerous. But again, that's in another lecture of mine. If you're interested in being able to trace that back to there, I can give you a link on that too. Okay. So there you have it. Some of the problems that these folks at Torah is Light, I think that's the name of it, isn't it? Have encountered are written up in that link that I sent. However, they've fallen prey this year to starting the year on the equinox. Big mistake. So they're going to be 7 days off. Makes no difference, though, in the next year because they're going to be back on, same as us, in the next year. You're just going to find that every 5 to 7 years there's going to be some dispute on this. And I'm sad because even some of our close friends has split off over this and started the first day of the first month on the equinox. I haven't asked them why yet. I wanted to see if anybody here, I don't know what calendar you use. I should put up a poll, and I might just do that. Norman, you want to take up for a little bit? I'll put together a poll.
Okay. Got it. Well, there's really not much more that I can say other than what Jackson has done an excellent job of explaining this. However, the way I think visually. I have to take these concepts that not only Jackson, but many others talk about, and I think, what the heck is he saying? So I try to convert that into a graphic. And this is what I do. I've created this wall calendar for everyone. I know many people don't like the way I've done it because I've incorporated the Gregorian calendar as the primary calendar. And the reason I've done that is simply because we're all connected to that Gregorian calendar, whether we like it or not. if I were to say, if I were to use the Enoch calendar and say, okay, I'll meet you on the 4th day of the week, you're going to say, when the heck is that? You have to look at the Gregorian, the 4th day of the week. Oh, falls on Wednesday this month or whatever the month is. You have to do that, regardless whether you think that that's a pagan system or not. That's the way it is. So that's all I've done. And this latest version, like I've mentioned earlier on, I've cleaned it up somewhat. I've taken all the shadows and all that kind of fancy stuff off and made it cleaner and easier, and I've incorporated a lot of the MMT notes that you have seen now, and have incorporated into the calendar, and they fall precisely as we have it. As I've said, if they don't, if you start one day later or some other date, you fall out of the system. It has to comply what we see in the MMT, the Jubilees, Enoch, Scripture, and history. So other than that, I'm working on that, and I'll be printing out those, and I've got PDFs, those who would like to see the PDF of that. I'll send it to Jackson, and then Jackson hopefully will forward it to
what? I'm wondering if it would be permissible to you if I just put the new calendar on a link here just for these people.
Okay, right.
That'd be all right with you?
Yeah, but have I sent you the new one?
I've got the latest one.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
Okay. Here is the link. This is the latest one I have, the ones you sent me. And this is in PDF form, of course, but it's got so much information in there, which you can fully see how this works, or you can just use the calendar.
Okay, that is relatively new. That is the one that I printed out for you as, I've even improved on that, believe it or not. So yeah, thank you. That's, it's pretty accurate. Well, it is accurate, but I've done away with all the pictures and all the pretty stuff, because it does nothing. A lot of people who put the calendars together put all these beautiful pictures and illustration. Okay, so that's nice. So what? I need to see the dates clearly, and I've recreated and I've done away with a lot of the stuff. But yeah, this is good. Let me see. Yep. Oops. Why is my mouse working? But well, let me see. I've got the PDF here. Let me see if I can give you the link to the latest PDF. Carry on, Jackson.
All right. I want to thank Scott for putting in the chat the names of the Hebrew days. You might want to copy that off and put it in the notepad, which I'm doing right now. Hebrew days. All right. I can't get the poll to work. There's already a poll up there, but it has nothing to do with this. I don't know why I can't get a new poll. The basics. Well, here are the basics. You can go out to jspresents.org, go down to calendars. There's several podcasts on the basics, but generally right here it is. The day starts, the first day of the year starts on the Wednesday after the first day of the week after the equinox. That's not complicated. It's always going to start on Wednesday. Your quarter, each month it's going to be 30 days, 30, 30, and then the third month is 31. It's repeated the second quarter, repeated the third quarter. And then we're not concerned about when the year ends. We just wait for the next spring equinox, go to the first day of the week after, count in 4 days to the Wednesday, and there you start again. You know when the feasts are. because you can either go to Norman's calendar or you can go to Leviticus chapter 23. And it tells you exactly how many days in. Like, it's going to tell you that Pesach is the 14th day. So if you're starting your month on a Wednesday, the 14th day is going to be a Tuesday, 2 weeks later. And then unleavened bread is on the 14th. I'm sorry, did I mess that up? 15th day. Yeah, I'm probably making it more complicated than it is. Okay. You are permitted to leave. And Norman explains all this if he puts up another calendar, that's fine, or you can take a look at the one I have. It tells you right in there. Or this MMT document as well, as long as you know where to start. Now, I'm wondering about if there are others here that have a different viewpoint on this in the next 20 minutes that we have. I would be more than happy to let you give us the news.
Jackson, I disagree, but I just wanted to say one thing.
Sure.
If the equinox is an observation day, how can we observe it and then still count it as the day? Because we're not going to see that until we get done observing it.
Well, we don't count it as a day.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to add to your point.
I see.
We can't observe it. We have to observe it and then realize the equinox has happened.
Mm-hmm. That's why we need to go to the Sunday after and then count 4 days in. We don't actually use the equinox. It's really part of the former year, don't you think, Craig?
Yes, sir. It's just a token, just like,
Mm-hmm.
It's a sign.
I'm glad you agree because you'd be a hard guy to argue with. Anybody else?
So this year, I put a happy New Year announcement on my page, my Facebook page.
That's all right.
On the 20th, right? So, and part of the reason for that is I used to be very strict about the particular rules that I have with regards to the calendar, and I've recognized that those are kind of somewhat arbitrary when you put them to the test. So I'm curious if we could put these rules to the test by answering just two questions.
Uh-oh.
The first question is, what year do we think the crucifixion happened?
Okay. Do you want an answer to that question?
Yeah, and I'd like to then put this the rules here that we're proposing, that Norman's proposing, that you're proposing, put those to the test for that year.
52 AD.
Anybody else?
I don't know. How does that figure in, Jeremy?
Well, mainly I haven't done 52 AD.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm curious.
Well, does that work?
To see how they pan out, because one of the things
Yeah.
that I've done is tried to locate that date. My opinion is it's more traditional, 30 AD, and the dates around that, the years around that, are just impossible, right? 27, 29, 28, 30, 31, 33. They don't really match in any way. But the closest, now I haven't done 52 AD. I'm curious to see how that works out. But 30 AD is actually very similar to this year, where the equinox fell.
Yes.
At midnight on a Wednesday night. And so anyway, that's my guess is that our rules if we believe that Yeshua was keeping this calendar, and that he was celebrating the Last Supper, Passover, excuse me, on that Tuesday before his crucifixion, we should be able to test our rules to that year, whatever year we think it is. And if we're really dogmatic on that year, it's going to become a real problem for our calendars too, right? So it should help us kind of sync up our two, maybe two different worldviews regarding the calendar, because not a lot of people I see put these two things together to try to reconcile their ideas.
That's important.
How does 52 AD work out?
I haven't done that, but yes, I have. I have done. I was thinking it was 29 or 31, but it could just as well be 30. That I reconciled it some years ago, and I have that on my website. Do you have it someplace?
I do actually. I've got those years. I've got 30 AD and the surrounding years.
Oh, excellent.
Mapped out on a pretty calendar that I can throw up in the forum, or I can show them here. I can just screen share. But those have been. I wonder if I can do that on my phone.
Well, what he's talking about, for you that's in the dark about this, is that if we understand that Yahshua was crucified on a Wednesday and he rose on Shabbat at the end of the day, to make 3 days and 3 nights in the tomb, and that this was a Passover time, and Passover, in that case, if I'm getting this right, had to be on Wednesday, or unleavened bread on a Wednesday, to make this happen. And in your Bible, for instance, there are a host of mistranslations about this. Like it says the next day was a Shabbat, so the Catholic Church has branded Friday as Good Friday, when actually Passover is on a Tuesday, and the next day there as unleavened bread was a Shabbat as well. So that's why he's saying to find a year where this fits. If you find that year, then you are going to find the year that Yahshua was crucified. And the particular year was an oddball year like this year is. So
importantly enough, it also, this year is quite a bit different in one particular way, and that's that the full moon happened on Wednesday this year, just this last week. In the crucifixion, we've got plenty of eyewitness accounts that said that there was a full moon during his crucifixion for the Jewish Passover that was coming up. And so whatever date you think it is, the things that you've got to be able to equate for is the equinox. Does it hit the rules that you've set up for it? Like my rules up until just the last couple of weeks here has been the same as yours, where it's the Wednesday following the equinox. The equinox would mark the last day of the year per se, and then the following Wednesday would be the first of the year. So in fact, in previous years, I would have considered the beginning of the year to start on the 27th of March this year. But this year I switched it up, and it had to do with this particular problem.
Mm-hmm.
And some ongoing research with another little group. In fact, Derek Limbaugh is in this group, and he and I and a few others have been dabbling in reconciling the role of the moon into telling us when the Jubilee and Shemitah years are. And we think we found a pattern. So we're trying some new stuff this year.
So this is what Derek Limbaugh is telling me about in his research here. Yeah, we've been corresponding for quite some time, a little bit on this and other things, especially these new feasts that we don't know much about. Yeah, I'm glad you know him.
Yes, I agree that I've also been looking at the moon situation as well. And I've sort of included it this year, the full moon. Yes, it occurs at the spring equinox. But the problem that I'm having, apparently Limbaugh and others have saying that is this system that they've come across. Well, it's there in scripture and in the Dead Sea Scrolls and in Jubilees and Enoch. It's all there. They maintain it's an ongoing. It repeats, and I'm having a very difficult time finding that repetitiveness. Because I've looked at other dates and it's way out, not just by a day or two, which is acceptable, but it's out by a week or more. And the further I go back, I just cannot see it occurring on those days. Yes, I've got it. But please keep let me know. I'm looking into that as well, but I'm having a hard time with it.
Hey, I got a quick question for you too. So, if for Jackson and you, if so then if the equinox happens on a Tuesday at 9:23 a.m., then when does the first of the year start?
The Wednesday after the Wednesday. You got to
So
go.
we're
To,
not-
you got to go
so
to Sunday first.
you have to go to Sunday and then redo it. So the only time that it would start around the 20th of March is if it happens after. So it's never going to start around the 20th of March today.
Unless the equinox is like a week before.
Well,
Which
no, it's still going to be
doesn't
pushed to
happen.
the 27th.
Mhm.
Because what you're saying is that you have to go to a start of the week and then the fourth day of the start of the week.
That's it.
So there's never a time when after the start of the week from Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, then it's just going to start on that Wednesday. It's always going to rotate to the next Sunday.
Yes, sir.
If it happens after the sunrise on the Sunday.
Well, that's one of the reasons you don't have to worry about equinox or any of that other stuff, or moon. Yes, there's leeway in there, and that's their formula. And we assume that is the old priestly calendar because that's what they tell us it is.
Can I?
And by the way, thank you, Jeremy. I did a screenshot.
Oh, good. I wasn't sure if you guys were seeing that because it was from my phone.
Yeah, we got it.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes. Is this,
Oh, hi. Daud.
Daud?
Yes, hi, Jackson. Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to ask something, and I wanted to tell something. Do you also use the Dead Sea Scrolls to make the Dead Sea Scrolls scriptures to look exactly when the first day is? Because if you go to the Dead Sea Scrolls fragments, there's exactly written all the years. I'm sorry. 1 second, please. Yes, I'm back. There's exactly written in one of the fragments, and I'm talking about not about 320, 4Q320, but if we read the 4Q320, it talks about the first year, and it says the following: on the fourth day in the week of the sons of Gamul, in the first month of the first year, there is full moon. I'm going to put out the television. 1 second, please.
Is he talking about every year or a specific year?
Yes.
What's the? Can you give us the reference, please?
I can give it. It's Mishmarot A 4Q320 is the Dead Sea Scroll, and it starts like this. I, dot, 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 to show it from the east and to cause it to shine in the middle of the heaven, in the foundation of the creation, from evening till morning. Some of the observance, vernal equinox observers, they think that it's about the sun, but it is the moon what this is talking about. And then it says there is full moon. So on the third day in the week of the sons of Gamul, in the first month of the first year, there has to be a full moon. Then goes further on the fifth day in the week of Yedaya, corresponding to the 29th day of the lunar month, which falls on the 30th day of the first solar month. So you have to, what they did, the scribes, they gave a full explanation when the full moon exactly appears in the sky. Then you know exactly in what year you are. Because it goes further, I can share my screen if you want to. Then it goes further, the second year. Then it says on the second year in the week of Malchia, corresponding to the 29th day of the lunar month, which falls on the 20th day in the first solar month. So this is the second year. Then you see that the moon, the full moon, appears on the 29th day of the lunar month, which falls on the 20th day in the first month. So if you check all those dates, and you can do that by going back to an internet site of the full moon. And that's how other people and I also did it. That is timeanddate.com. Then you can exactly see when the full moons happen. And all those scriptures from the Dead Sea Scrolls, those fragments, are explained when the full moon exactly appears in the sky. And then you know exactly in what year of the cycle you are. So I understand that, most people or a few people think that we have to wait now for the next week. But according to the Dead Sea Scrolls and those scriptures written by the Zadokites, they tell exactly that if the full moon appears in the sky, in the heaven, on the first day, then it is the first day of the week, of the first month. I don't know if you have heard of the YouTube channel Zadok Way, because he also explains this very fine. And the temple scroll, I heard you say, Jackson, that you were talking about the temples. You were talking about the feast days, the other feast days, but all those feast days are also written in the temple scroll. And we know from the Messianic Judaism and from the Masoretic Torah, we know there are 7 feast days written in it, but according to the temple scroll, there are 12.
Yes.
There are more, and also written in it is how you have to celebrate it and exactly on what date. So the temple scroll, including this scripture from the Dead Sea Scrolls, from the Mishmerot A and Mishmerot B, then you can see all the years and exactly on what year all the full moons appear in the sky. So then you can also see in what year you are of the cycle, because it is a 6-year cycle. So the scribes made a very accurate, sorry for the noise from the children. But the scribes made a very accurate explanation that we can exactly see in what week and what day, in what month the full moon will appear. So then you also know what year we are of the cycle. So that's very interesting. And
yes,
it appears that we are now in the last year, because the first year is the same as the fourth year on some moon appearances, and it comes also back to the sixth year. But if you read the, I think it's Nehemiah, in the scriptures of Nehemiah, there is also written that the priests, they had every day two of the tribes, of the different tribes, had to come and celebrate the feast of wood. So, and all the other, the priests were named exactly, so we can exactly see also what year and what, what month they had to do their duty.
We need to have a systematic study of that passage.
Yeah, I think that's very important, and that's how I use the scriptures of the Dead Sea Scrolls now to collaborate, or I don't know how you say it in English, but to make the day on the first day was Wednesday for me. Even though the vernal equinox can be later or sooner, it doesn't matter, because we are also dependent of the moon, which is written also in Enoch. If you read in Enoch, one of the chapters,
it tells us in Enoch where the moon is, but I don't think that the days of the year are dependent in any way on the moon. I don't think it says that, but that's something, you know, we've been talking about you coming on here and doing something of this order. Perhaps, since you sound like you're pretty expert in this area, maybe that would be the topic to do.
I can do that. I can do that, of course. Okay. I'm busy now with my Dutch channel for YouTube, for the YouTube listeners, but that's different. It's much more easy for me to talk. But I will do that. I can try to do this and make a study. And
we can't go into any in any depth now, because first of all, our time's up. But second of all, that is a difficult subject that we're going to need to have some visuals on, at least the text itself.
Yes, of course.
If you can arrange that, you just let me know, and we'll put it together.
Yeah, I will do that. Okay. I will do that soon. And there are more people who know this, or not know, but who studied this and do it in English. So it is available on the internet. But I will try to do it if you would like.
Excellent.
Yes, please. Yeah, because I think we're all studying that. We're all into that as well. And like I said, I'm having a challenge. I read it slightly different, but it's a fascinating. I think we need, like Jackson said, we need to get this sorted out, because we're 99.9% in agreement. It's just these little peculiarities that we're struggling with.
Well, it's like one thing Jeremy said, we can't be too dogmatic about this. We do the best we can. It's a miracle that so many people have come together on it. But it's not that we're not going to be challenged, or it's not going to that we're not going to find new information. We hope that material come out of the ground all the time so we can get it right. So maybe we need to extend this topic. We're going to wait on you, Daud, and see when you're ready to do that.
Yes.
You and I have talked about
this
before.
It is the beginning of the year. Jackson, so the sooner the better.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a schedule for myself, and I will make the topic. I was already busy with the Dutch YouTube channel to make this clear.
That's going to put it. That's going to decide whether Passover or unleavened bread is within a week or 2 weeks, right?
Yes, of course. It's very important. I don't mean that it's bad if we do it wrong, because we don't know everything precisely, and a lot of us do all the best we can. And also me, first I kept the Hillel 2 calendar for a few years, maybe about 7 or 10 years long, and I studied it very deeply. Then I came to discover that the Karaites, they had a visual kind of way of observing the moon, the full moon, of the conjunction, moon conjunction. So I thought that that was the way I supposed to do it. Then I was talking about that. But later on I came to this knowledge and to this truth. And I think everybody who does it on a different calendar way, we don't have to judge each other. And because I can do it wrong as well. We believe that the Dead Sea Scrolls scriptures are giving us some very good information. They are a pearl in our hands. But for example, there can be different kind. There were in those times. There were also different kind of groups, and I have a PDF book which tells about that there were different calendar systems also written in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So it depends on. It's very difficult to say this is the right one from which wants us to keep.
So Norman, how do you read it differently, and what does Enoch have to say about it?
It's too complex to get into it. I just see that with the moon, the full moon occurring at the equinox. To me, that is now indicating that it's a 6-year cycle, and that is now the 7th year, and the 7th year is the beginning of your next count, the next 6-year cycle.
Yes.
So the moon has nothing to do with the individual year, just a group of 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's saying, and Daud saying that not only does it have to do with the 7 years, but it also has to do with the individual year.
Yes, because if you are in year 1 or year 2 or year 3, it's different. There are different days when the first day of the week begins. But what I make out of those scriptures is that always the first day of the week begins on a Wednesday, because it says explicitly in the Dead Sea Scrolls that on the first let me see, that on the 4th day of the week is the first day of the I don't know how to say it's the 4th day of the week, but it's the first day of the beginning of the month of the year. So that's always on a Wednesday, and it depends on if you are in year 2 or 3 or 4. Then maybe we can have a moment. Then we have to wait for the full moon to correct it again, because we have. That's what I prove. We have a day extra. We have
no extra days.
My contention is it makes no difference what you got extra, because you're always going to start in conjunction with the equinox. Right. So who cares when
anybody there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the full moons that explain exactly in what year we are of the cycle. Without those full moon, they wrote in the Dead Sea Scrolls, you cannot know in which year you are.
Okay.
So, and you can go back with the date, with the internet site which I gave from moon, let me see what it is, timeanddate.com. There you can exactly find out what it was the year before, and the year before, and the year before. So then you know exactly, okay, those scriptures are, it's correct.
Okay, if I may interject here. Exactly, you're 100% correct. However, go forward 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. You do not see that full moon occurring anywhere near the 20th. That is the challenge that I'm facing with. Mm-hmm. And I've gone to time and date, and I just don't see it occurring.
All right, listen, I hate to break in now, but we need to go if we're going to get this on a podcast. So yes, they're being asked if, Daud, if you can post your stuff, including that reference that you gave us. Can you do that on the think tank?
Yes, I will do that.
Okay.
Yeah, no
Great.
problem.
All right. Well, I hate to leave right now, but we must do that, and we can continue this next time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for such a great interaction here. All of you, I thank you for being here. And I'll see you soon. Maybe tomorrow night.